You guessed it. You guessed it. The TrapHouse podcast is back for yet another episode. And we're going deeper. Oh, you thought we were deep already? Oh no. Not even close. It's almost like, as humans, other humans telling us what they know is at the center of the earth. But yet they've never been that deep. Never been that deep. But yet we know what's at the center. The TrapHouse podcast today is going to go deeper. We're really getting in it today. And again, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we want to ask thought-provoking questions to make humans think? Here at the TrapHouse, me and Phil believe it's our duty. We believe it's our duty to make you think. And not to just make you think, but to think past what you've been told. What you know to be true based on what other humans have told you. Right, Phil? We just try to provoke thought around here. We're not trying to change the world. Or are we? What do you mean you need listeners? You know what? You're right, Phil. You're fucking right, dude. You are always right. You know, you've got a thing about being right, Phil, and I appreciate that. You need listeners. If in fact you want them to think. But honestly, seriously, honestly, makes no difference to me. Does it make any difference to you, Phil? It doesn't? Oh, surprise, surprise. So how was your week, bud? Did you have a good week? That's nice. You know, it's weird. I used to... It's not like we don't really get to see each other all the time anymore. We see each other now once a week, which is fucking phenomenal, man. We went months without seeing each other. It's nice to have you back, though. Oh, I get it. You had some more time? All right. Don't lose track of it. Have you saved any time this week? Have you saved... You have? You've saved some time? Where do you keep it? All this time you save, where do you keep it? Do you keep it in a time bank, or is there a special savings account I can open for time? I already know I'm retarded, Phil. You ain't gotta fucking tell me, bud. Alright, that's enough. That's enough, bud. No more. Okay? Look, I'm glad you're saving time. Just make sure that you saved it. Because sometimes you save time and then you forget where you put it. Now, when in fact, because we know what fact means. When in fact, when in truth, when in observational data appears before you and you see it and you know it and it's a fact, or you've studied it and it's a fact, or, you know, you obviously have to see it, touch it, feel it to know that it's a fact or truth. You can't just go on what people say anymore. You can't. There are people out there who sing this. I want to get them dead presidents. The funny thing about getting dead presidents is they're dead, right? I mean, they're obviously dead and buried, but what I'm assuming they mean is they're trying to get money. I want to get them dead presidents. The silly thing is the guy that's on the $100 bill, you know, the bill that everybody holds up and says, I'm trying to get the dead presidents. I don't know who Benjamin Franklin sucked off to get on the $100 bill, but that guy was never a fucking president. You had to do a lot of sucking and fucking to get on the $100 bill and not be a president. I don't know if that's a fact or not, or true or not, but all I know is it's a fact in my opinion because, I mean, look who we got on the $20 bill. How many people you see walking around with a $1,000 bill? How many people do you see walking around with any dollar bills nowadays? Trying to get them dead presidents? Fuck, one of them ain't even a president. But we're trying to get him. And we keep trying to get him. But why? Why are we chasing after paper? For real. If it wasn't for money or notes or whatever the fuck you want to call it, if it wasn't for money, what would be the incentive to do? Would you even have an incentive to do? So I've thought about it for a second. And you know, if you are a human and you are good at working on cars, or you're a mechanic, or you're knowledgeable about cars and how they work and operate and move, and you know the noise that the customer, when they come in, they go, it's making the noise, and the guy's just like, I know what that is. So if you're good at what you do, if you're good at what you choose to do, why do you do it? For money? You do what you're good at and like doing for money? That's crazy. That's crazy talk. Nobody does anything they like to do for money. Because if they really like to do it, they wouldn't do it for money. But it's the incentive. Hey, you like doing that? We'll give you some of these dead presidents if you come and do it for us. Now just imagine that there was a world where humans enjoyed doing what they enjoy to do, but no money. Wouldn't it be phenomenal to be able to just go to the grocery store and then get what you believe you need and then leave? Wouldn't it be great to just go to the apple orchard where the guy likes to plant apple trees and he likes to grow apple trees and pear trees and orange trees, and you know, he likes to plant and he likes to farm, I guess you would call it. He likes agriculture. He likes to be outside. What if that guy just liked what he did so much that he just kept doing it, and that's what he did? And then whenever anybody needed an apple or an orange, they just went to this guy and they got it. But at the same time, that guy who loves what he does, he likes what he does, he's doing what he do, then what if he needs his car worked on? The mechanic who needed apples and oranges, he came over one day and he got some apples and oranges, and then this guy's car needs an oil change, and so he just goes to the mechanic and says, hey, mechanic, I need an oil change. And the mechanic's like, no problem. I like doing that. I'll do it. Done. But wait a minute. In order to do an oil change, you must have oil. There must be a bolt that plugs the tank for the oil. There must be a tank for the oil. There must be all the parts to a car to create a car. And it's crazy to think that out there are people who are really good at making nuts and bolts. They're good at it. They apparently, it's what they're good at. They like to do it. And then there's also somebody who likes to create stereo systems. There's somebody who likes to create tint for windows. People like to do what they like to do, and then they do it. Now just take away money. Just take it away. So you got money now, and then you just take it away. But everybody just keeps doing what they're good at doing. Did I just solve all world crisis issues? Maybe. Maybe not. But I can and will tell you this. Is money just an incentive? to do? Is the only reason why you do is for money? You go out and do 60 hours worth of doing, and then at the end of the week, they give you money? It's crazy because everybody likes to do what they're doing, or they love what they're doing. So why not just get rid of money? I don't know. These are facts and my opinions, folks, and I just threw that out there, hoping maybe you thought about it. Because if you like to do, just keep doing. But let me ask this. I've got to ask, because here at the TrapHouse podcast, like you all know, we like to ask questions. When was the last time you took a breath of fresh air and enjoyed it? Can you remember? Do you recall the last time you took a breath of fresh air? Do you even know what fresh air is? Let's even boil it down even more. Do you even know what air is? And if so, when was the last time you got a fresh breath of it? Just a question. Just a question. You know, because you do know. Everybody knows. And it's unnerving sometimes to think about humans who make choices. Because it's not just like you wake up in the morning and you're like, all right, let's go make some choices. There's a fucking process. There's background. There's context. There's reasoning. There's thought. There's questions. There's answers. And then choices are made. Do you make wise choices? And if so, let me know. Let the world know how you make your wise choices. Why not? It may provoke others to start making wise choices as well. I know, I get it, Just a rambling idiot. Just a rambling idiot. And I'm okay with that. Did you know they started putting water in cans? So crazy. Oh my God, water is so fucking... Water. H2O. Some of the most delicious fluid on the planet. Besides semen. Delicious. But H2O comes in close second. So last week, and we know it's been 7 days, 7 whole days, since the last episode came out. It's a lot of time to think, and to be active, and to do. To do. I wonder what that means. To do. Maybe I'll look it up. Maybe I won't. But last week we had asked the question. Actually, really didn't ask a question, kind of more statement. It was kind of more like a statement. But I remember saying, here's something to think about. First impressions. First impressions. Did you think about them? Did you think about maybe the first time you met your spouse? Did you think about maybe the first time you got introduced to crack cocaine? Did you ask yourself, what was the first impression like when I went to go pick up my dog from the pound? What was my first impressions when I first had to go out and pay my own car insurance? In life, there are so many first impressions. So many. It's the time in which it's a first. And the activity, human, or whatever it is that you're firsting, there's got to be some sort of impression. So first, impressions. Now the word impression, it's like a I don't know, like a stamp, like an impression. Like if you take a step in the sand and your foot makes an impression, and it makes an imprint in the sand. I mean, so now we know what impression is. It's like it's permanent. Not really permanent, but it's an impression. Like the way someone or something or some place impressed itself upon you. It's historical. Impressions are historical. The first time Christopher Columbus met the Indians, I bet he was super nice. First impressions. It's like you put a mask on. Or it's like, hey, I'm going to, or hey, they're going to, or hey, this place is going to try to impress me, being it is my first. Doesn't have to be their first, or that place's first, or the animal, but it's your first. So your first impressions. First impressions. How do you do it? Because there's only one. That's why it's first. There's only one first impression. Did you think about it? Because it's not just human to human, it's everything. If you've never done something before and it's your first, if you've never gone out of state, if you've never driven, if you have never gone fishing, if you've never, and then you do for the first, that's a first impression. Whether you're giving a first impression or you're part of a first impression. A lot of humans that I know, I had to initially have a first impression from. There was always a first. No matter what, there was always. Now let's ask this question. Let's base it just based on human to human first impressions. If you were able to think and remember any and all first impressions, and at the moment, the current time and place, how have things changed? How have things been manipulated? How have things veered off of that first impression? Have they veered off that first impression? Have you asked yourself, is this the same person I met the first time? Is this the same human I met the first time? Is this the same dog? Is this the same place? But just human to human at this point, I keep veering off, and that's okay because it's my goddamn podcast and I don't give a fuck. Because words are words and they will continue to just fall out of my mouth. So first impressions. Have you ever had any? And in fact, let's think this way. During a first impression, who are you? During that first impression. Are you you? Or are you basing you on how the other side of the first impression will look at you? Will feel about you? Now, oh my God. So who are you during a first impression? Are you trying to impress? Are you trying to impress? Are you trying to impersonate? Are you trying to impersonate? Are you trying to avoid truth? Are you being a shady fuck? Are you being all out, straightforward, and honest? Are you? First impressions. Almost sounds like, how do I impress? First, how can I be the first to impress? Well, in my factual opinion, first impressions are bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. Why, Epiphany Chris? Why? Why would you say that? Well, let me tell you. Because going into a first impression, you know, and the other knows, or whoever is involved in the first impression, know that the human across from me don't know shit about me. The person across from me, the person I'm meeting, the person I'm seeing for this first impression, they don't know shit. And here's the twist. So, knowing that being part of a first impression means that there's no knowledge or no truth that's been exposed. Now, unless it's like a blind date setup, or you're setting somebody up for the first time, whatever. You kind of get an idea of the other human. But even then, when you have that little bit of knowledge, how could that literally be a first impression? How could that be the first if you have any or little knowledge of what's about to transpire before you? So here's why I believe it's bullshit. First impressions. First impressions are a setup for failure. Because as a human who knows humor, there's no way that going into a first impression you're going to be telling any bad news. There's no way you're going to be telling any truth. And if you do, it's skewed truth. You know what skewed means? If not, get a fucking dictionary. Because each of the people involved in a first impression are very naive. It's unknown what's gonna transpire, what facts or non-facts, or what may or may not happen. What you don't know. So both parties are naive. Both parties are naive. They are completely ignorant of facts. Well, what do you mean, Epiphany Chris? There's fucking Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, and everybody can know everything about everybody at all times. Exactly why I believe all that shit's retarded. It's all retarded. Because you can't even take a legit picture nowadays without a filter jumping on you. Without something skewing the view. So, are first impressions really first impressions? I believe it's bullshit. Because how, in the year 2022, can you even have a first impression that's legitimate? When the baby's born, that baby's not knowledgeable. That's not really a first impression. They've impressed upon you, but you can't first on them. Because they don't even know you're there. You're just a fucking blurry blob. That's kind of like meeting for the first time. A couple blurry blobs. Can't really focus in yet. Don't really know. Can't really know because it's a first, and it's like looking through beer goggles. And here's another reason why it's bullshit. It's like a competition to see who will be the most impressive. Who's gonna impress who first? Maybe first impressions are really impression first? Impression first? Who's gonna be the most impressive first? And then you gotta try to think about what is the deal with these first impressions. Why must we have them? Why is it a thing? Why? Because there's always firsts. There's always firsts. We never really talk about the second, third, fourth, fifth impression. We don't talk about the 7,000th impression. Why is it always the first impression? Another reason why I think it's some bullshit. Because first impressions, you're basically blind. You're basically blind, right? You've been blinded by this first impression. It's your first. You've never been impressed by this first before. So how do you go about it? How do you perceive a first impression? What do you go into a first impression with a game plan? Sometimes you don't even have time to even know what's going on when you have a first impression. You know? Sometimes you could be out enjoying yourself and then you happen to first impression on somebody. How do you perceive it? Do you have a first impression manual you go by? Like, oh, if I'm gonna impress somebody and I want them to know about me as a human, these are the things ultimately that I'll say always. Once information has been exchanged between two humans, because if it's a first impression, once information has been exchanged, how do you compare it? How would you compare it to? Would you need to compare it? Would you need to judge it? In fact, it's a first impression. So, okay, let's put it this way. Make it easy. Make it easy for people to understand, because people don't even realize yet that at the TrapHouse podcast, everything I say are facts, in my opinion. So let me just break it down to a boil for you. Break it down. Let me break down the ramen, and let me throw it in the boiling water. How do you go into a first impression? Say you're in a dating phase, and you just got out of a bad relationship. Say you just got out of a relationship that wasn't the best. It just wasn't the best. You get out of a relationship, and then you find yourself in a first impression point of time with another human, and you look at them. Do you judge them? Do you compare them to how could you be first impressed upon with this human if in fact you've taken other impressions and you kept them and held on to them? This is another reason why I believe it's bullshit. Because there's no such thing anymore as a first impression. And if there was, show me. Show me. Because since your ever first impression as a human, you've been impressed upon your whole life. Your whole fucking life. You've been impressed upon. Tons of firsts, tons of ideas have been exchanged, tons of interactions have taken place. But yet, can you still have a first impression? Can you? Really? Because being naive and ignorant of facts is what makes a great first impression. Nowadays, everybody's smart. Everybody's a goddamn genius. Everybody's got the world at their fingertips. Literally. So how can you have a legitimate first impression? They say, look out for the red flags. To see through the bullshit. I'm saying, what about the turquoise flags? What about the lemonade color flag? What about the green flags? What about the orange flags? What about the purple flags? What about the white flags? Look at it. If you go into any first impression and you're like, oh well, I gotta plant. That ain't no first impression. Don't be ignorant, people. Don't be fucking ignorant. Because ignorance is bliss, but remember, we know ignorance is only bliss to the person saying ignorance is bliss. Because other people looking at somebody else being ignorant want to let them swallow their teeth for free. So let's not be ignorant. Let's get back to first impressions, if they truly possibly could ever be brought back. I say, look it. If you're living in the year 2022 and you haven't figured out how to fill your day up without using the interwebs, if you haven't figured out how to have a good day without turning on the TV, if you haven't figured out in the year 2022 how to go out and be you the best way you could be you without any outside influence, you, my friend, are retarded. If you can't find time, if you can't find a way to spend time not doing what everyone else is currently doing, if you can't manage to walk away from your phone, if you can't manage to walk away from the television, if you can't manage to get up off your ass and go do, just cease to fucking exist. Because existing isn't worth it. It's tiresome. It takes a lot out of a human to just exist. And I'm telling you to fucking cease existing if you believe that you need screens, internet, or any of that other shit. Because it's impossible to have a first anymore. Because everybody's done it all. Everybody's gone through it all. Everybody knows the answer to all. But that's just not the case. You've all been deceived into believing a lie brought to you by some guy or some gal. Or some guy, gal who doesn't know if it's a guy or gal. We're all inclusive here at the TrapHouse podcast. We encourage everyone to be you. No matter what gender you pick. Factually, in my opinion, there's two. Factually, in my opinion, two genders. Why are we so confused? But if you want to be a different gender than the two that are factually evident, then, and only then, can we continue. So if you've thought about first impressions, just even for a small little bit, if you've thought about any that you've had or said you had, have you now thought more into it? And if you can answer yes to that, if you've just even thought about it for a fraction of a second, I've done my part to get you to think. And that's all we like to do here at the TrapHouse podcast is get you to fucking think. So here's something to think about for next week's episode. Get ready. It's a doozy. Have you ever been forced to make a choice? You know we're going to boil that down next week, so think about it. Just think about it. Maybe even look up the words in the question and see what they mean. Maybe before you speak anymore, you should look up what the meaning of the words are that you use. It may change the way you speak. Because what you say out of your mouth, the words that go ahead of your tongue, the words that fall out of your lips, the words that pass the teeth gate, you said them. You must know what they mean. Now here's the part. Here's the encouragement section, the encouragement segment. Here's the encouragement Encouragement. It's meant to be given, not hoarded. Encouragement. I meant to say, give yourself a kick in the ass, because encouragement is what you ask. And I'm going to give it to you. Here's some encouragement for you fine folks. Be you. Amidst other yous. We all may be human, but no two are identical. No two are identical. None. Not one. No. 165 billion humans, not one the same. Not one the same as another. What about identical twins? Not even twins. They are still two different humans. Just born at the same time, you say? Oh yeah? Identical twins are born at the same time? Prove it. I'd love to see that extra large pussy. Because if you can throw two kids out at the same time, show me. Prove it. Never in all time have two babies just come out at once. Their heads would be shaped weird. Be flat on one side, from getting smushed. In the middle, nice and rounded on the edges because, the walls of a vagina are real flexible. But when you smush two heads together on their way out of the birth canal, you know what? Maybe that's maybe that's where flat top came from. I don't know. One of the best Dick Tracy fucking villains of all time. Flat top. So, since no two humans are the same, literally the same, identical, you could say all you want to say, but you fucking prove to me, and you prove it. If you can prove it, I will bow my knee to you. I will say, you know what? You're right. However, in this instance, I am 110% correct. And 150% factually opinionated. But there was your encouragement. Just be you, man. Just give it all you fucking got. Because nobody else is going to give it for you. Nobody. It's tough to be nowadays. It is, isn't it? It's a little tough. But why is it tough? Why do people assume that this life has been just a shit show? I mean, it is a shit show. It's kind of like Barnum and Bailey's circus got let out, and it's just created this big circus because it's so simple to be. Just to be. We've made it so goddamn complex, and we've put so many restrictions and sanctions, and we've taken away and given, and we've made rule over, and it's much easier than that. We've made it so complex, and why? What's the purpose? What's the end game for making things so complicated? Just stupid questions. I mean, to you it may be a stupid question, but to me, it's a question that you'll give me a stupid answer to. Get it? Good. It's been a great time at the TrapHouse podcast this week. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you showing up for what might be the most epic podcast on the interwebs. And I have to say thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a part of it. Because without listeners, without people knowing more than they know now, how would they know? Remember, folks, all words said here at the TrapHouse are facts, in my opinion. So go out there and be you. But be you based on what you choose. And be you based on choices you make wisely. Have a wonderful week, everyone.